Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick, and in this video we are going to take another look at Bitcoin, and specifically the price action of BTC. We've had a fantastic weekend for Bitcoin's recovery, but what does this mean for the week lying ahead? As we get into this video, guys, if you do find it useful and informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, make sure you have subscribed, tapped the bell, and selected all notifications. This way you will not miss another Bitcoin update. Right, with that said, I think it's important that I also acknowledge that this video has been sponsored by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app. With Crypto.com, you can buy your crypto at the true cost and sell when you are ready. You can, of course, earn a juicy return on your crypto investments and spend your crypto via their debit card. You can track your favorite cryptocurrency and all your transactions via the app. And we cannot forget their new NFT platform either. So why not check out Crypto.com and sign up today? Link is down below. Right, with that said and done and out of the way, let's take a look at what has been going on most recently with Bitcoin. Okay guys, so here we are on the weekly chart for Bitcoin. We are using USDT as the pair and Binance as the data source. Now, I always like to start off on this weekly chart because it gives us a good idea as to where things are going, and we can see the most kind of recent price action on a bigger macro scale rather than really focusing in on those smaller time frames. So with the last kind of 4 weeks worth of green candles being printed, this is a pretty significant move for Bitcoin. But is it going to be sustained, or are we due a bit of a pullback? Now, obviously, we've moved the needle quite significantly. We can see this from the stochastic relative strength index, which is no longer oversold in the same way that it was when we were right at the bottom. And again, we are coming up to now that 50% retracement zone. So this is going to be a bit of a barrier for us, and this was previously an area of support. So again, this is going to be a major resistance line that we want to cross, approximately 46k, but I'll get into that in a moment. Now, obviously that stochastic relative strength index is in a pretty reasonable position on both the fast line and the small line at 64 and 40 respectively. So not too bad, but they do obviously need to slow it down a little bit. So on this weekly chart, we want to acknowledge that we are looking to head out towards the $182,000 Bitcoin. And there are a few obviously areas that we want to obviously acknowledge on that journey. Obviously the previous all-time high at 65k obviously is going to be a major resistance block for us. Well, once we get past that, the first target should be 87k, followed by 123, 160k, and then of course topping out at 182k. Those are the expectations according to the Fibonacci retracement tool, with those extensions of 1.618, 2.618, 3.618, and of course the 4.236. So these are key areas of the Fibonacci that we obviously should be aware of. Now, being the fact that we have moved the needle so significantly in the last 3 weeks, it is important to prepare ourselves for a bit of a pullback, which would be a very healthy move. Whether that is going to be this week or not, and that is what time is there to tell. Now, ultimately, my expectations, I'll go through the daily and the hourly in a moment, but on the weekly, I think a small pullback and maybe retesting the range of about 42k is a key thing for us before we can really go ahead and actually move in a more strong way to the upside. We've got a lot of resistance to get through. 50% retracement zone is one of them, but obviously that big milestone around the 786 area, approximately 57k, is another milestone that we absolutely have to crush, and we don't want to be in an overbought situation on a weekly chart when we approach that level. Right, with that said, let's jump down into our daily view, because here's where we start to see a bit more of the detail. Now, obviously, for a few weeks now, we've been talking about how we have to absolutely nail 42k. By nailing 42k and really going above and beyond this, it allows us to really have a nice strong week. This being said, a pullback like we have seen previously for maybe a couple of days is a healthy move. Yesterday we saw a small pullback, and today we've seen another healthy green candle to the upside. Many of the crypto whales, the Bitcoin whales out there, are showing no signs of wanting to liquidate their positions, so this is a pretty healthy move. With this being said though, I do think that a healthy correction is something that we should be expecting. Now, just like the weekly chart, we are not in an overbought situation on that stochastic relative strength index on our daily chart. It was needing correction for quite some time when we were all the way up here really testing the 42k area. This pullback over this 4-day period absolutely nailed what we needed. It basically pulled our stochastic RSI right down to a nice comfortable level of about 43, and that has really allowed us now to grow. But what we are looking for is to push up maybe towards that 46k area before basically getting a nice pullback and confirming that this area is a support line. In doing so, that will correct our weekly, it will correct our daily, and of course our hourly stochastic relative strength indexes and relative strength indexes alike. This would mean that we would have a very strong position then to go up and head towards those 50 to 55k area. Again, this is where we're going to start finding a lot of resistance blocks. As previously, areas of support can be found across here. Specifically, anything above 50k is pretty much an area where we're going to be really finding some major resistance. With that being said, once we get above the kind of 59k area, we should be off to the races quite nicely. But obviously, to get out of this area, we are needing to have healthy pullbacks. What's unhealthy is this motion to continue the growth that we have done. So I am kind of expecting us to find some resistance, potentially up here towards that 46.5 to 47k area, and then potentially have a pullback down and find ourselves a good strong support around 45 to 42. I think that's going to be a nice strong support line for us and would allow us then to continue the growth to the upside to really nail some of these other areas around the 50 to 60k range. Now with Bitcoin, I think that ultimately there's going to be a lot more people buying back into it, knowing what's going on, thinking now about the fact that we were not in a bear market and in fact we're in a bull market, and hopefully people are now really looking back at the stock to flow model and actually thinking, yes, this is actually okay, it's definitely in line with all those expectations that we've been talking about for quite some time. With Bitcoin, with the way it's going at the moment, I do think we just need it to slow down a little bit, allow for some profits to be taken from some day traders, and then hopefully that will then allow us to have corrected enough on our relative strength index to allow us to continue to grow in a nice strong way. The other thing that we obviously need to acknowledge are of course the EMAs, the 20, the 50 and the 200. Now all of these are fantastically below us, which does mean that we are in a pretty strong position continuing that growth to the upside. The Bollinger Bands are also another reference point, right? We're down here tracking nice and low as we were retesting these areas, and we can see how we really pushed right back up here, and then obviously coming down to the midway point. Now obviously pushing this up even further, but again this is unsustainable for the long term. So again we will be looking for some sideways trades for a little bit to allow for some consolidation on many of these different indicators. With that being said though, when we do obviously take a look at the volume side of things for Bitcoin, we can also see that we are running out of momentum. And again, we'll jump into the 𝗖𝗢 dashboard in a moment, but here we can see the volumes are decreasing over time. So the sentiment is obviously running out of steam just here. So what we're looking for here is to keep that selling pressure nice and low, and then basically just allow for some profits to be taken and allow us then to continue the growth to the upside. What we don't want to do is start to see an increase in selling volume and panic in the space, which I think is now past us. Now, on that note, let's jump over to this 𝗖𝗢 dashboard when we can talk about what's going on in terms of that sentiment. Right now, Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index has a rating of A3. This is a pretty reasonable area. It's pretty neutral. I wouldn't say it's overly greedy, but it's definitely up there, right? It's definitely in that kind of range. It's not an A1 rating saying that there's extreme greed there, but there is definitely entering the world of greed right now for Bitcoin, which is very interesting and nice to see the contrast to this in just a matter of a few weeks when this was all the way down at a rating of D with extreme fear. Ultimately, the Sharpe ratio is in a pretty healthy position now. It's above the 50-day average as well with a B2 rating. So Bitcoin has been performing quite nicely and there is definitely less risk to holding Bitcoin right now. The moving averages are right up there at B2, as we said, above the 20, 50 and 200-day moving averages nicely now. The C2 rating for peak end value demand and the profitability, that return on investment, is the best it can be up in A1 rating. And I did actually not zoom in deliberately. I wanted to kind of really show you guys what the profitability of Bitcoin was looking like during the 2017-2018 bull run. And here we can see how much this actually spiked up when we actually finally reached the top of Bitcoin. And this is what's happened so far during the 2020. Let's see if I can move this out of the way for you one sec. Okay, so I'll just move myself out of the way so you can see exactly what is going on over here. This is the current 2021 bull run, right? And we can see here that it is nowhere near the same kind of level of profitability that we've seen in 2018. This is not 100% accurate science, but it's a good visual representation of maybe what is due to come in the second half of this year. As we close Q3, go into Q4, what will the profitability, that return on investment, look like for BTC? I think it's going to look significantly better than it is looking right now, and I think ultimately Bitcoin is primed to see some significant growth in the next few months. Now, obviously, I think the advice dashboard is a fantastic way to give us a bit of an idea and a bit of an understanding as to what is going on before it actually happens. Time and time again, advice dashboard, the artificial intelligence and machine learning here, takes a look at that data every single day, updates its ratings at midnight, and then gives us an understanding of that data graphically in these visual representations. This data is being very accurate in predicting what is likely to happen next with many of these altcoins and Bitcoin alike. So if you haven't checked out advice dashboard, I do thoroughly recommend signing up. It is free to use for many of your favorite cryptocurrencies, and you'll get deeper insights into what is going on for each of them. So do recommend checking that out. Now, on Bitcoin's chart on the daily, it's always great to know what's going on, but let's actually jump down into, of course, our hourly view. Here we can see the most recent breakouts for BTC, moving up significantly right now at 46k at the point of recording this video. Now, the significant growth of Bitcoin has put this into an overbought area, so we are looking for a pullback. Now, a pullback could see us go down towards this area around here, which would approximately be $45,000. So we might lose $1,000 off Bitcoin, and that should hopefully correct this hourly stochastic relative strength index and put us into a really strong position to continue the growth to the upside. And hopefully that will then allow for the daily also to be corrected along suit. One thing that I'm seeing across all of these different time periods is the need for a nice healthy correction. So although we have broken 42k and we've seen significant recovery, I think it's important that we do acknowledge that healthy corrections on the journey to the upside have to occur, and we want to be preparing ourselves for them. Now, I am not a day trader. I am also not a financial advisor. And as such, I do not sell my cryptocurrency on the expectation that I can buy more at a lower price. Instead, my preferred option is to basically just dollar cost average better positions. And I really don't want to be in a position where I'm stressed out looking at charts, trying to find good entry points and exit positions when I've actually sold at a particular price and looking to buy it back cheaper. Instead, like I say, just dollar cost average, and that is my preferred method. So I find it highly risky to basically be looking at the space here, although everything is looking like a pullback is due. With Bitcoin specifically, we've seen so many pieces of manipulation over the past couple of months. It's not a gamble that I would be willing to take. With that being said, a correction, in my opinion, is what I am expecting to occur, at least in the next couple of days. Right, guys. With that said and done, I think it's all important that we don't only just focus in on the daily or on the hourly charts, but we also really do make sure that we zoom out and really focus in on where Bitcoin is going in the long run. Obviously, this is just the Bitcoin bull run of 2021-2022. But in 2025 and 2030, the Bitcoin price will be significantly higher than what we see here today. We are talking about a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for Bitcoin alone, let alone the rest of the crypto space. Things are only just starting out, and the adoption is really kind of set for when those CBDCs launch in 2025. Once we get that mass adoption into the space, I can see this crypto sphere becoming a multi-trillion-dollar space, pretty much swallowing up many of the traditional markets. So ultimately, I wouldn't worry too much about what happens this year, but it is important that we do lock in a few profits on the journey and build better positions ahead of what is to come in the next decade. Guys, with all this said, done, and out of the way, hopefully you have found it useful and informative. If you have, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, make sure that you do subscribe, hit the bell and tap on all the notifications. In doing so, you'll be kept up to date with all of the Bitcoin updates that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day and I'll catch you all in the next one.